So, welcome to Alienate UK on Monday, the 9th of December. Big technical issues with the guest. One of the devices using the camera is very blurred and you can't see anything. And on that and the other one, we cannot hear anything, or I cannot hear anything. So, there may or may not be a show. He's just logging out and rebooting everything and coming back on. So yeah, that's it. You just got me, but it gives me a chance to do my 22 billion updates. So I did get it wrong. This isn't the last Monday. Next Monday is the last Monday, the 16th. Do have a guest coming on. She is a fictional author. That's all I'm telling you. I'm not even going to give you a name because you'll find out over the weekend when I do the thumbnail to it. And Eerie Encounters, it is back, but there are some guests that can only come on a Wednesday. So I've got somebody coming on this Wednesday. So I'm just reading Fire Spirit. It's always some retrograde going on, isn't it? Oh, is it ever going to end? So we've got Daniel Lee Barnett coming on this Wednesday, and the Wednesday after Christmas we've got Al Santariga coming back on. He's had some updates of him going out and doing some investigations. And for those who don't know, Daniel is the young lad who organizes a lot of the, well, he organized a cryptid conference down near Somerset last year. And he's a guy that got Brian King Sharp to come over and a few others, Paul Howard, Bridgewater it was. So he organised that. Nickname went and met people there, so it's all good. I was going to go, but we ended up going on holiday instead, so I couldn't make it. So I've got Daniel coming on Wednesday, and then on Friday we've got the Australian comic Nick Trappini. He's on Friday. Then next Friday we've got the Christmas special, but that's going to be slightly different. We are going to incorporate Eerie Encounters into that one, so it'll be myself, Tommy, and Nicole. But we're going to do what we're going to talk about this Wednesday with the ghosts of aliens, or something like that. Can't remember. I've got it all wrote down somewhere, just not here. But you'd think of it here, wouldn't you? Anyway, so that is what's going on over the next couple of weeks. And then we're not going to have anything from... So our last show is going to be on the 20th of December, which is Christmas special. There's going to be nothing until the 3rd of January. So it's a full 2 weeks. Just good time to get started, get other people on, and enjoy Christmas. So that's it. It is not looking good with the guests coming on tonight. So 2 options: cut it short and just go home and do whatever. Or if there's anybody in the chat who would like to come on and talk about something for like half an hour, 40 minutes, you are more than welcome. I can send you the link. That's it. So we've been trying to do this now for 25 minutes and we've not got anywhere. I can't even see him now. He's completely gone. So unfortunately, we are guestless. So I'm just looking to see if he's anywhere, but nothing whatsoever. Sorry, guys. That's that. I'm going back to Cannock this weekend, coming this Saturday to do some more filming with Monster Squad. As long as there's no stormy weather, everything will be good. So going doing that. That's all I've got. Got quite a few guests lined up for the new year, including Heidi Pop, Kate Hairgirl Ray, Michael Kopf, A few others, I'm just waiting for him to confirm. Right, just bear with me. He's here. Hopefully we'll be able to see and hear him. Hello. Nope, we can see him, but we still can't hear him. So while we try and sort this out, I'm just going to say hello to a few people in the chat. So Granzia, hello, Vlad, Wayne, Steve, Darren, Bim Jim. Who else is there? Og, thank you for moderating. Oh, we had some noise then. Drew and Simon will be lurking in the background as well. Oh, a nickname. Hello. There he is. See, speak of the devil when he pops up. Are you able to hear me, Ian? Can you do a thumbs up if you can? Right. So I cannot do anything at all from this end. Doesn't give me any options to check anything from your side. So I'm not sure what we can do. No. The camera's better on that one. Can see you clear as day, but just can't hear anything. Did get a bit of noise about a minute ago, but other than that, nothing. Anyone in the chat, any suggestions? No, we've gone through all that. Nothing's muted. Oh, yeah, your microphone is muted, Ian. And I can't unmute it. Well done, Darren. No, nothing. Telepathy. Come on, Wayne. You can help us out then. There is nothing at all that I can do from this end. So I keep getting a bit of a fuzz noise coming through. I heard something then, but so the only thing I can suggest is what I did before in the settings, audio, drop down box, and then choose a different microphone. If you click on where it says mic, click on default. It should be the top one, and then whatever that is. Excuse me. No, it's nothing. It's not doing. Nope, and it's gone. Ta-da! We don't have anything. I don't have anything to tell you other than what I've already said. I'll try for you, and I'll reset all my permissions. Right. I don't know what to do because I don't have any updates other than what I've just told you. The only thing we can do is get him to come back on. If this doesn't work this time, then I think we're just going to call it a day. Hello? Nothing. No sound whatsoever. There is nothing I can do from this end. Audio. No, it could just be the server that he's using. Are you using Chrome? Or what's Microsoft? Which one's that? I use Chrome when I'm doing it on the PC, but on my phone and that I use Safari. It might be the can't speak. Might be the server. I really don't know. Edge. Oh, I deleted that because it was awful. Why have I got stuff open? Anyway, I'll just have to try and get him to come on again. He's done loads of research and he's got loads of stuff wrote down. Even I don't know what he's got wrote down because I want to be as intrigued as you guys are. So I didn't want to find anything out before he came on. But yeah, we'll blame Nick because she said the word edge and now she's ruined it. I ain't got anything. No updates. I've got nothing. Sorry, guys. Other than next Monday's the last Monday. After that, it is 2 days. Air Encounters will be back, but we've got some guests that can only do a Wednesday. So they're going to be coming on this week and the first full week in January. And then after that, it's going to be 15th of Jan is going to be Air Encounters. And I think I'm going to do it fortnightly. So we can do guests. That gives us 2 weeks then to get a lot more research into anything that we're doing. Oh, that's it. So, see, I've never, since I started paying for StreamYard, other than my computer deciding to shut down, it's been fine. But I did notice, when was it? On Friday, it did a full Windows 11 update. There's a new version of Windows 11. And it took, in total, I think it was 5.5 hours. Always tired nickname. Just born tired. Yeah, it took 5.5 hours to fully update, and then there's 2 more updates after that. Right, going to try again with this. Hello.
Hello there.
Oh, yes. We're there.
I don't know what it was, but when I reset it that time, it seemed to work.
Right. I can't even tell you. I just know if mine works, and that's it. And was all about to go on then. Man. No, it's good. It happens. It happens. It used to happen to me all the time, and I was just saying now that I pay for it, it doesn't, which is good. So
yeah.
So it's like anything. More you pay, but it's like anything. The more you pay, the better it is.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. I hear you. Well, it's nice to meet you, Andy. My name's Ian.
You too.
Yep.
Yeah. Are you able to tilt your camera?
Sure.
Down a touch. Just people are saying that they can't see you and it's a little bit dark. Well, there we go.
Cool.
Perfect. Hope everyone in the chat's happy now.
Awesome.
So thank you for coming on. I just want to say thank you to Darren for being in contact with yourself and linking us together.
Yeah, Darren's a great guy. He loves the Mac lads too, so he's a good guy.
Yes. Dan's underpants. That's all I'm going to say. If you
Yeah.
don't know, tough. But if you go on YouTube, you'll find them.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, there's loads of stuff on there.
Yeah, they're old school.
Yes. I was at school when I used to listen to them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like mid-80s.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of people here listened to them in the 90s. People who were into punk and oi music, they were always going to the record store to get music that British bands put out.
Yeah. Got you.
Yeah.
Cool. Right. So moving on. So welcome to the show. I don't know that much about you other than what you've told me and what Darren's told me. So
yeah. Well, I've been interested in the UFO subject my entire life. I think I read my first UFO book when I was around 8 years old. And I've just always been really fascinated with UFOs and the supernatural. And I always wanted to find out as much as I could about both subjects. Everybody has their own point of view and their own outlook on life. And they're all every person kind of has their individual reality bubble, a lens by which they interpret things.
Yeah.
And I guess foundational lenses that went into my interpretation, I was always raised up with a Christian belief, but I always kept that in the background, almost in a little box. And I tried to understand the world without it, and I mostly understood for most of my life things just through an agnostic perspective, even though I was Christian. And I started looking into UFOs, like I said, when I was about 8 years old. I went into engineering when I was older. And so I have kind of an engineering mind. And I was always interested in the nuts and bolts part of UFOs.
Yeah.
I was always interested in the technology and the mechanics. But it seems like, oh, by the way, I had an accident in the 2010s and ended up becoming disabled from that accident.
Right. Okay.
But because of that, I ended up with a lot of time to research different subjects that I was interested in. I just kind of wanted to work my mind out. And I tried to understand the nuts and bolts of UFOs for a long time. And when I became willing to look into other esoteric areas of UFOs, like abductions and the spiritual connection, I really found that that's where I actually made progress beyond a certain point.
Yeah.
So I've never done a podcast interview or anything like that. I mostly write. And so what I did is I wrote up just like I would write a paper for anything else. And anytime you want to break in, Andy, just break in and ask me a question.
I'm just happy listening. So
okay.
I will eventually. So
okay, cool. Yeah. So I just called this rough draft the spiritual nature of UFOs.
Yeah.
So what are UFOs or UAPs and where did they come from? This is a mystery that titillates, confuses, frustrates, and confounds millions. In the year 2024, we see them in the news and in the skies, perhaps at a greater level than any time in history. From personal encounters to the halls of Congress, talk of this phenomenon is on everyone's lips. Society can no longer comfort itself with the ridiculous debunking excuses such as swamp gas and Venus misidentifications. Civilization can no longer deny that we are being visited by something and perhaps someone. Countless people all over the world report UAP sightings. Millions even report close encounters of the third kind and even abduction experiences. But is this really anything new? Have similar visitations happened in humanity's past? What is the true nature of these visitors? Are they extraterrestrial? Are they something else entirely? I believe that if we look closely at recorded history, and if we look at cases of repeated abductions, we will be able to divine the true nature of our visitors. The answers may shock us. And I called this next section Magonian Sky Sailors and the Tempestari. And I wanted to stop here, and I wanted to say that we have UFO encounters going back to Alexander the Great, and probably before that too. I didn't know this for a long time, but Alexander actually reported at one point in time that something looking like a shield came down and shot a bolt at a city wall that he was besieging, and it fell down, and they entered that city. Yeah, I didn't know that. I learned that today.
No, yeah. I did as well.
Yeah,
that's two of us.
Yeah, that's amazing. So Jaques Valle was one of the first reputable UFO researchers to offer unique and original insights as to the nature of UAPs. In his seminal work, Passport to Magonia, he showed that airborne apparitions that featured physical interactions with non-human visitors have been recorded since at least medieval times. Magonia in medieval folklore was believed to be another realm from which airships and their pilots originated. These pilots were said to steal grain and even abducted people from time to time. They were believed to comport with earthbound human sorcerers called Tempestari, who were responsible for both inclement weather and protection from it. So it looks like maybe these guys were running a protection scam at some point. It seems that people of the time regarded Tempestari as witches and Magonian sky sailors as demons. One may find themselves wondering if these purported sky sailors had black eyes. Encounters with airships are viewed as mythology by modern skeptics and academics, but the records of the era seem to record them as factual happenings. For instance, in the mid-700s in Ireland, several sets of annals all record that airships with crews were seen in the air. Another account in the 10th century even featured an encounter in the presence of Congalach Mac Maelmithig, in which one of the airship crew came down to retrieve an artifact. When he did, the local townspeople seized him and he cried, "I am being drowned." Congalach ordered him to be released and he returned to his airship, apparently swimming. It is evident when several annals report the same events that the people of the time regarded these events as astonishing and unusual, but also very real. Yet modern academics and skeptics obtusely regard everything else they recorded as factual, while regarding these events as mythological. In fact, several Carolingian religious texts also mention the Tempestari, condemning their practices. Yet another document, this time a treatise from an author named Agobard of Lyon, complains that in his region there is a widely held belief that sky sailors, known as Magonians, worked with sorcerers to create inclement weather. He describes a scene in which townspeople had seized 4 of these alleged sky sailors that they had claimed had fallen from the airships. The Magonians were held in irons by the villagers, and Agobard had to vociferously argue against their execution. Agobard believed the villagers were just being superstitious, but the multiple accounts of their sightings and physical encounters across centuries strongly suggest otherwise. Mentions of skyships and their sailors in medieval annals would end up spanning 6 centuries. Skyships and their sailors would seem to be a popular and well-entrenched phenomenon in the medieval mind. Another aerial mention, this time from Gervase of Tilbury in the 1200s, tells of a skyship that caught its anchor on some rubble near a church in Britain. Apparently, one of the sky sailors came down the anchor line to free it. The animal reports that the sky sailors suffocated in the thicker air. The ship sailed away, and the anchor ended up being recycled by the townspeople, made into fasteners and ornaments for the church door. I'd like to have a sample of metal, wouldn't you?
Oh, yeah. So again, where did you say that was? Tilbury?
Yeah, that was the name of the monk, and his name was Gervase of Tilbury. Is that still a town in the UK?
Tilbury is, yes.
Wow.
I can't think where it is off the top of my head. I know I've been there, like free work and what have you, but I'm hoping somebody in the chat will be able to locate it and put it up. So
yeah, that's amazing. We just don't have that kind of we don't have that kind of time span over here in America, you know. Like
no,
nobody has a memory of 1200 over here. We've only got like 200 or 300 years of recorded history.
yeah, yeah. But Og saying it's in Essex, which is southeast and like east of London.
Yeah.
So I know I've been, I just can't think where it is. I thought it was further south, like west.
Yeah, so we can see that with Gervase of Tilbury, that monk's in the UK, and the other guy from Lyon, he was over in France. So this was obviously a widespread belief.
Yeah.
I'll go
oh,
on here.
Yeah. Sorry, it is. It's just outside London. It's near Kent, just outside Grays, near Gravesend.
Cool.
So anyone that knows London, it's right of the Dartford Tunnel.
Yeah.
So you're going east. There you go.
In another text of the time, Inter alia, against magic practices, we are told these tyrants of the air in the time of Charlemagne were carrying off men from every locality and showing them their beautiful women, their republic, and their manner of government, and then setting them down on earth again in diverse places. And another quote, people who saw these men as they were descending came running from every direction, convinced beforehand that they were sorcerers who had separated from their companions in order to come and scatter poisons on the fruit and on the springs. This account sounds remarkably similar to some modern alien abduction scenarios. It is also made resoundingly clear that in the minds of medieval inhabitants, these interactions had markedly negative connotations. It seems medieval inhabitants wanted no part of these apparitions, physical encounters, and weather modification. Mac Maloney, author of UFOs in Wartime, also adds about UFO sightings of the era. There were persistent reports from the time of strange flying objects moving low through the sky, leaving a trail of suspicious waving vapor in their wake. Wherever and whenever these objects were seen, the plague, the Black Death, would soon break out in that area. Wow.
Oh.
Yeah.
See, I might be going off on a tangent with this one, but this has always puzzled me. So obviously you got the Black Death, the plague, and then all of a sudden you had the Great Fire of London. But
Yes.
you mentioned about weather control. So then you had the Great Fire, and then all of a sudden there's a flood. To time that and get that in the order, at them particular points is pretty good going. Don't you think?
That big fire was in 1666, no less.
So around mid 1600s. I'm just trying to remember. And then the flood, because the fire took out, was it like nearly half of London? Because where I live now in Northampton, because of the fire, Northampton became the capital of the UK for about 18 months to 2 years. It's about 50, as a crow flies, it's about 50 miles, 60 miles north of London. So it's not a million miles away. But then all of a sudden there was a flood.
Yeah.
It just seems very coincidental that these three things took place one after the other in that particular order. So was there some sort of weather control even back then?
Yeah. Interesting question. In the 1670 tome, the Comte de Gabli, we are given esoteric explanations of the lives of elemental spirits and perhaps an attempted explanation of some of these encounters. The author, the Abbé Montfaucon de Villars, included this monologue that can be described as the revolt of the sylphs. These beings were seen in the air in human form, sometimes in battle array, marching in good order, halting under arms, or encamped beneath magnificent tents, sometimes on wonderfully constructed aerial ships whose flying squadrons roved at the will of the zephyrs. He continues later, what happened? Do you suppose the ignorant age would so much as reason as to the true nature of these marvelous spectacles? The people straightway believed that sorcerers had taken possession of the air for the purpose of raising tempests and bringing hail upon their crops. The learned theologians and jurists were soon of the same opinion as the masses. The emperors believed it as well, and this ridiculous chimera went so far that the wise Charlemagne, and after him Louis the Debonair, imposed grievous penalties upon all those supposed tyrants of the air.
Hmm.
And here's an occult connection. It's also interesting to note here that many spiritualists and theosophical ideas of fairies began with texts like the Comte de Gabli, giving the subject further occult connotations. Indeed, many fairy folklore tales feature encounters with small otherworldly creatures, as well as many accounts of abductions and of unwilling individuals. As Jaques Valle showed us, we can draw many parallels between UFO encounters, medieval Magonians, and fairy folklore. But the medieval era would not be the end of skyship encounters. So, starting in the 1850s, we had a wave of airship encounters around the world in multiple countries, and they kind of culminated in 1897. Some 1,200 newspaper reports were written in America alone, describing airship sightings all across the United States.
Yeah.
Strangely designed and slightly futuristic airships began appearing all over the country, often featuring very bright spotlights. Occasionally, the occupants would interact with astonished humans on the ground. The pilots of the aircraft would ask for directions or ostensibly be searching for water in order to power the craft. They sometimes gave highly technical and incomprehensible explanations of the motive forces that drove the craft. Some people who encountered these strange air pilots noted that they had small black eyes. Then the airship visits ceased just as suddenly as they had begun. Some researchers argue that they were extraterrestrial or ultra-terrestrial, while others believe the airships were part of secret technology clubs. But to this day, the airship spate of the 1800s is a mystery.
See, when you said about having bright spotlights, I just thought straight away the Phoenix lights, because that seemed to be what that was. I know they was pointing spotlights up at it, but obviously it was coming down as well.
The Phoenix lights, yeah.
Yeah,
that
was the first thing that I thought of when you said that.
Yeah, I was fascinated when that encounter happened, and maybe tens, maybe hundreds of thousands of people in Phoenix, Arizona saw that. And a lot of people saw it from different perspectives, that encounter, it gets misremembered a little bit because, the government instantly started putting out propaganda, to divert your attention away from it.
Yeah.
And they were saying it was A-10s with using flares and all these other things. But the original story was that many people all over the city saw these Phoenix lights, and they described a ship that was, larger than aircraft carriers were.
Yeah. But as well, they said about how much ammo they emptied firing at it. So if it was these other aircraft and like flares and all that, surely there'd be some damage to report back.
Yeah. Now I don't think they fired at the Phoenix lights, but they did fire at the Los Angeles lights.
Oh, I thought they fired at the Phoenix lights.
No.
Am I getting it mixed up?
Yeah, because by the time of the 1990s, people, I guess people in the NATO alliance, they didn't really use anti-aircraft guns anymore. They used missiles,
right?
Surface-to-air missiles. So, but at that period of time in the United States, we were that was the end of the Cold War. They were calling that the end of history, and we had pretty much disarmed at that point. I mean, as much as America ever disarms.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's like we've just moved it over there so no one can see it, sort of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well,
Thinking about the Los Angeles lights, that was a very interesting case because we were at war in that period, and they had some serious anti-aircraft guns out there. And
Yeah.
the stories they put out were that a few shells fell back on Los Angeles, and a few people died, and that was the end of it. But later stories came out that they may have retrieved some wreckage after that encounter.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And we'll probably never get to the bottom of that one, at least not anytime soon. But it does seem that they did recover some wreckage.
Yeah.
You know what I just thought of? Bob Lazar, in his story about going out to S4
Yes.
on Papoose Lake, I think he said there were 9 UFO craft out there, and he said one of them had a hole in it that looked like a giant cannon had fired through it. So I wonder if maybe that crashed after the Los Angeles incident.
Possibly.
Yeah, I just thought of that.
Yeah. Right. Can I just jump forward to today, and then we can go back to your research?
Sure.
Because I've not had a chance to speak about it yet. So Elaine, who's doing the moderating in the chat, she sent me this link about this guy that was doing a podcast the other day. And one of the theories of all these drones and UAPs and UFOs that are being seen at the moment, what if they're not coming visiting? What if they're leaving?
Yeah.
That I've not been able to think of anything else since she sent me that. Not slept proper or nothing. Because it's like, if they're leaving, then there's got to be a major reason as to why they're leaving, and something big and catastrophic is going to be happening if that's the case. I'm not saying it is that, but
it could be.
Can I leave with them?
Yeah. Have you ever heard of the story of the tall whites?
Tall whites. I should have done.
Well, I'll fill you in real quick. I forgot the guy's name, but he wrote some books, and in the books he described how he joined the Air Force when he was a young man, and I think this was in the 1950s or the early 60s. And so anyway, they put him in the position of weather observer, and they put him out on a particular bombing range that's out in Nevada in the United States. And while he was out there, he said that they had a colony of aliens who he called the tall whites.
Mm-hmm.
And he wrote this extensive story of how he met the tall whites and how they were very skittish and they would only interact with certain people. And it was a very interesting story, but I would say that mostly the UFO world did not believe him. And but I think around the year 2013, somebody on Google Maps remembered his books, and they zoomed in near that bombing range, and they saw white egg-shaped craft, just like he described. So it seems like he was telling the truth. I'm not sure if he's still alive or not, but that does seem to be one encounter that did end up being true, or at least has some evidence for it. I remember why I went on that tangent. I'm subscribed to a YouTube channel, and it's called Anomalous Vegas, and all this guy does is he films kind of that area out in Vegas that would be near that bombing range. And he sees UFOs not only coming, but going, just like you said. And he has he puts videos out almost every day. And it really does look like something's living there and coming and going, just like it's their job. Yeah.
So what's your take on where these are from? Do you think the origin is Earth, or do you think they come from elsewhere? Different times, different dimensions, just different location in general?
That's a good question. I think there's probably a mix.
Yeah.
And just because I've read so many abductee stories, and one of the I guess one of the core messages I got is that there is a battle between good and evil,
Yeah.
and for whatever reason, we here on Earth are the nexus of it. We're the center of it.
Yeah.
And that's a recurring theme that I found. And I don't know if anyone could call me an investigator. What I do, or I guess they could call me a researcher. And what I do is I read a lot of books. I read a lot of
Yeah.
books on this subject. So, yeah. Since you asked me that, let's get a little more into that. And I called this next section, "Are They Spiritual?" So, for 99.99% of human existence, we collectively, as humanity, believed in a spirit realm. Only since the end of World War II have people largely become agnostic or atheist. A materialist, reductionist worldview is a new human outlook, and a minority view to boot. Yet it is the lens by which we examine almost everything now. But is this the right outlook to understand UFOs, UAPs? Is there any evidence for a spiritual understanding of reality and UFOs? Could that understanding help us comprehend UFO encounters and abduction experiences? Shockingly, the CIA found evidence of the spirit realm and at least a 5-dimensional universe with their Project Stargate remote viewing program and Project Gateway hemisync meditation program. I myself have used this technique, and it does get some amazing results, although I wouldn't recommend contacting spirits and astral projection as the advanced program asks you to do. Interestingly, though, people report encountering great aliens in the spirit realm, so perhaps we should look more deeply into a spiritual dimension of UFOs and aliens. And I wanted to stop here and just say that I downloaded the hemisync Project Gateway program. And when you download that packet of information, it will give you the CIA's theoretical explanation of a 5-dimensional universe, kind of a holographic emergent universe.
Yes.
That seems to be maybe projected from a more base reality. And I want to say I did like a month or two of that hemisync meditation program. And I would say that I did break through to the other side a couple of times.
Oh.
I saw things, that appeared very real, just like you were watching TV, but you had your eyes closed. But when I got a little further into the program, it wanted me to start making contact with spirits and leaving my body. And that can be dangerous. I've done a lot of kind of esoteric and occult research, which I believe you have to be very careful with that subject.
Yeah.
And when we go into the astral realm, there's something called a silver cord that connects you to your body.
Yes.
And if that gets severed, you're not going to be able to get back into your body. And you can suffer all kinds of other effects. Like, I don't know if you've ever heard of the hitchhiker effect.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can bring some of these spirits home with you. So I would be very careful with things like that.
Yeah.
All right. So I'll continue.
Frustratingly,
most original UFO researchers do not include the full stories of UFO encounters. They usually give the easily understandable details, but often leave key experiences that accompany most encounters out. These common experiences are what is known as high strangeness, the hitchhiker effect, or poltergeist activity, and apocalyptic dreams. Sometimes this isn't out of any desire to deceive us. Many times experiencers don't even report these things in the first place. They may not make the connection, and the researchers may not associate these things together. Or many times they don't think the audience will understand the bizarre totality of the experiences. And I find that is true in a lot of cases, and other people have noticed this as well. I'm not the only researcher that's noticed that kind of unwillingness to tell the whole story. Because it's I guess for we really have a very open-minded generation, I think. That exists right now, and for a long time, I think that researchers, they were thinking, well, they're going to have a hard enough time accepting that I'm talking about aliens. If I have to bring all this woo into it, they're not going to absorb that. So I'll just leave that part out, and I'll talk about the nuts and bolts.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. If we truly want to understand the phenomenon, though, we must examine all available information. When we accept high strangeness, the hitchhiker effect, and apocalyptic dreams, along with UAP encounters, we are faced with the fact that there may be a strong spiritual component to the phenomenon. It may be frustrating and confusing to analyze data that resists empiricism, but when we embrace the esoteric, we are given more clues to the nature of the phenomenon. The late Dr. Carla Turner's abductee research was extensive. Few researchers understood the abduction phenomenon as well as she did, for herself and her husband both were serial abduction sufferers. One of her subjects, Ted Rice, whose experiences she committed an entire book to, was emblematic of the serial abduction experience. What she found in his case, which was common in many others, were serial abductions, screen memories or false memories constructed in order to conceal the true nature of what the abductee experienced, manipulation, and concealed, abuse.
Yes. Yeah.
Because you can't say the R word on YouTube, right?
No. It's safer not to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'll use abuse instead of that word.
Yeah,
and
that's
defilement.
Good. Yeah.
Carla Turner noticed over a bunch of different abductions that abuse and defilement was a consistent pattern in the negative experiences. I'm not saying that all the experiencers that she studied had negative experiences, but a large portion of them did. And those were two consistent things that they showed. In her book, Masquerade of Angels, psychic and lifelong experiencer Ted Rice remembered the ritual abuse and defilement. He remembered it as, they are laughing at our situation and they are doing it to get even. That's the only way I can describe it, to get even with something. By the way, Ted Rice was a notable psychic, and he had a very good reputation for being consistently right about what he was saying.
Yeah.
So I treat the information that he's giving us, since he was a natural psychic, as he probably did completely understand the motivations of what he was seeing.
Yeah.
So why would so-called aliens be interested in ritual abuse and defilement? Who would they be getting even with? It's one thing to take genetic samples for hybridization. It's quite another to ritually abuse and defile multiple abductees when there could not be any possible reproduction purposes behind these unwanted couplings. Ted Rice's experiences went farther. When his grandmother stepped between the abusive reptilians and his 10-year-old self, and she further invoked the name Jesus Christ, the foul entity became infuriated. He pronounced a death sentence on young Ted's brave grandmother. Proving that this was more than just an imagined experience, Ted's grandmother would die of a stroke 2 days later.
Oh.
Something about the name Jesus Christ both prevented the vile reptilian from further abusing young Ted and enraged it enough to cause death to his grandmother. Poor Ted had been manipulated by his spirit friends his entire adult life. One of the spirit guides that he encountered throughout his life, an anthropoid reptilian who called himself Volmo, turned out to be one of the same reptilians who abused and defiled both his grandmother and his 10-year-old self. Beyond all the manipulation and screen memories lay the true horror of the nature of these sadistic visitors. Like so many other abductees and experiencers, Ted and his grandmother were more than just genetic material donors and medical subjects. They were ritually abused in what exactly matches Luciferian cult practices. And by the way, I've studied those. It's dark. Yep. I'm not going to get into it. Most people can't even handle studying things like that.
Yeah.
But it does go on. And I will tell you, when you start looking into what goes on in the top of the power structures, especially in the kind of Atlantic alliance between North America and Europe,
yeah,
that's a thing that goes on. Yeah, a couple examples of that are the Finders cult, the Franklin scandal, and the Dutroux affair. The Dutroux affair almost caused the Belgian people to overthrow their governments physically.
Oh, I've not heard of that one.
Yeah, they said 3%, at least 3% of the actual population was out on the streets.
Wow.
Let's see, where was I? Ted would go on to explain that he felt that the evil negative entities had posed as spirit guides and aliens in order to cause him to use his psychic gifts to guide many people into New Age religion and away from the Christ consciousness. Dr. Carla Turner would sadly go on to die of an aggressive cancer, but over her many cases of studied abduction experiences, she found that many of the experiencers suffered from the same symptoms as abuse victims. Couldn't say that other word.
Yeah.
But the spiritual connections go deeper. In his book, Final Events, author and researcher Nick Redfern investigated the activities and findings of an informal, high-level Christian cabal of officers in the United States Air Force. But far from being a conspiratorial group acting in their self-interest, these insiders sought to find the truth behind the alien presence, abductions, and mutilations, as well as Air Force involvement with crash recoveries, alien contact, and even black magic. What they found was as horrifying as it is astonishing. The Collins elite, as they dubbed themselves, were commissioned to study the UFO presence and the abduction phenomenon for the Reagan White House. Working off their own investigations and using ideas from the book, the Bible, physics, and the abilities of fallen angels, they discovered that there was much more to the alien presence than meets the eye. They found that a foreign technology group inside the Air Force had been exploiting so-called alien technology, but that they had also enlisted the help of the occult and black magic. They uncovered the fact that this technology group had performed blood magic and sacrificial rites that rewarded them with advanced technology. Sadly, the shadowy technology group within the government believed they were manipulating the alien presence for their ends, when it was clear that the non-human entities were also manipulating the situation for themselves. And I've been hearing for many years that the United States government was in contact with non-human entities, and particularly the negative non-human entities. That's a belief that was going around for a long time, and Nick Redfern's book exposed a couple of high-level sources that confirm that. Oh. After all, why would a supposed presence from another star system respond to black magic and blood sacrifice rituals? The Luciferian nature of the interaction seemed to indicate that these aren't aliens at all. Another key finding the Collins elite discovered was that of the individuals they studied who had suffered from the abduction phenomenon. Those who invoked the name Jesus Christ had been able to stop the abductions in their tracks. This is another incredible finding that indicates that these aliens have a definite spiritual aspect, and a finding that is backed up by other former MUFON investigators like Guy Malone and Joe Jordan. And I think it's Guy Malone that runs a website called alienresistance.org. Maybe you guys can check that out sometimes.
Yeah.
However, this does not mean that some of the abductions weren't physical. Although they found that many abduction experiences could be experienced entirely in the mind, some left behind physical evidence. Indeed, the aliens did at times leave behind artifacts in the form of spacecraft, as well as implants that have been removed from abductees over the years. Abductees had commonalities in their experiences, including genetic sampling and even women carrying hybrid offspring in their wombs, pregnancies that were removed by the non-human entities before they could be carried to term. It is difficult to know what exactly the goal of the genetic and hybridization program is, but it's clear for many abductees that it is an extremely negative experience, one that they would prefer not to endure. So Nick Redfern goes further in his book to talk about Linda Moulton Howe.
Yeah.
And Linda Moulton Howe was contacted by a man with high-level DoD contacts named Ray Boucher. He had two scientists that gave her information about activities within the ultra-secret compartmentalized technology exploitation program. They learned that the mechanics of interaction with the non-human entities were well described by the scientific principles expressed in David Bohm's Wholeness in the Implicate Order. Although they understood the mechanics by which the NHEs operated, they realized they were also powerless to stop whatever programs the NHEs were carrying out. They also reinforced the Collins elite's findings that the visitors were masters of manipulation, causing many abductees to experience both real and hallucinated abductions, leaving behind screen memories of what they wanted human experiencers to remember, just like Dr. Carla Turner would also find.
Yeah.
They were also disturbed by the manipulations of the NHEs and the fact that people in government research programs have been utilizing black magic and human sacrifice in exchange for knowledge and technology. So that's another report we have of the technology exploitation program delving into black magic and human sacrifice.
It makes sense, though, doesn't it? Makes
it really
a lot
does.
of sense.
It really does. What I'm going to get into next, I'm going to read a little bit more on that, but in a minute I'll get into early Judeo-Christian beliefs in the Western Esoteric Tradition, because if you talk to any average Christian on the street these days, we don't have the same beliefs as people did around the time of Jesus, because those people read other things. And in these other books and these other scriptures, they had a lot more detail than what was in the Bible. But back to these two scientists. These two scientists also recommended several other books on demonology, including Devils and Spirits of Babylonia, Essentials of Demonology, Dialogical Discourses of Spirits and the Devils, Biblical Demonology, and Angels and Demons according to Lactaneus, in order to help others understand the true nature of the phenomenon. When one begins to understand the principles of demonology, it goes a long way in explaining the accompanying high strangeness and hitchhiker effects that tend to come along with the phenomenon. It's almost as if a portal to their realm allows other entities to bleed through when they are interacting in our reality. Interestingly, they ended one of their communications with Miss Howe by stating how close Jaques Valle had been to finding the true nature of the phenomenon. Ray Boucher would lay low in later years, but he briefly came out of retirement to work with two Christian researchers. After he had contact with them, he contracted an aggressive, fast-acting cancer and died.
There's a bit of a pattern there, isn't there?
Yeah, and it honestly makes me want to it makes me want to tear up because it's our own government.
But it's like, see, with this is making me think now with black-eyed kids.
Yes.
Is
Yes.
because you've got the black-eyed kids, there's not that many reports, but the reports that you have got, anyone that comes into contact with them ends up getting really bad diseases.
Yes.
I.e. leukemia, different types of cancer, and so on. So these kids have got really black eyes. Could it be some sort of ET wearing, without going too dark and deep, wearing a child skin suit? Because they're going to be the same height. It's kind of like the ill fitting. It's not quite right. There's something that doesn't add up. And then they've got to be invited in.
Yes.
And then they go and get in the car and it's all blacked out windows. Is that then the Men in Black or some sort of other government agency?
Yes.
All that, I can't go anywhere else with that. That's all I can think.
Yes. Yeah. I've made that association too. For a long time in my life, I was terrified of demons. And we actually, by the way, in this very house where I'm in right now, we had a demon haunting one time. It was it's what I call a minor demon. And it haunted my parents. It would fly at their heads. It looked like a shadow, but in the form of a bat. And it would fly at their heads, and it would hit the window so hard that it would shake like it was going to break.
Yeah.
And I guess for a lot of my life, you could have called me a backslidden Christian, and but for whatever reason, when I came back around this time, the fear of demons was totally removed from me, just like it was like a weight taken off me, and I didn't build up to it. It was just all of a sudden gone, and I think God wanted me to start studying these type of things personally. But let's continue. Early Judeo-Christian beliefs in the Western Esoteric Tradition. Modern Western Christianity doesn't have the rich peripheral spiritual lore that was present in the time of Jesus. What the apostles and Jesus himself would have been reading, and indeed they quoted from in the canonical Bible, were apocryphal scriptures such as Enoch, Jasher, Jubilees, and others. Contained in those scriptures are rich descriptions that expand on events and subjects that are only briefly covered in Genesis. Subjects such as fallen angels, their copulation with human women, and their resulting giant offspring called Nephilim, and even what seems to be genetic manipulation for the purpose of blending multiple animal species together. Could this be the origin of cryptids? Enoch tells us that the angels, who were supposed to be watchers over mankind, so we in the West understand the word angel to be just almost like human beings with wings from Renaissance paintings, right? But that's not what angels are at all. The word angel is a word for messenger. But what these are celestial beings, and they have a hierarchy, right? That's what we're told, and they have various levels of power, and they also have various different appearances. We're told that some of them look like animal-human hybrids. Some of them probably might look a bit minotaurish. Some of them look very much more bizarre than that. But we're given more of an understanding of that when we look into these apocrypha. Enoch tells us that the angels who were assigned to be watchers over mankind were being harshly punished, both for copulating with human women and for taking on many different physical forms, presenting themselves as gods before other cultures and demanding worship from these people. In this manner, the fallen watchers led mankind astray, setting up a pantheon of spirits to deceive the different peoples of the world into worshiping themselves. The original monotheistic worship of mankind was transformed into a polytheistic pantheon of various ranks of deities and spirits that are actually these fallen watchers. And also the part of the angelic rebellion we're told about. When we take in the totality of the Apocrypha and a few other scriptures from that time frame, a picture begins to emerge. I believe the author of the Genesis 6 conspiracy, Gary Wayne, interpreted it very well, and he paints a compelling picture. What he proposes is that on day 6 of creation, and we know that a day to God is as 1,000 years, when it says male and female, he made them, he's talking about a different group of Stone Age humans separate from the Adamic bloodline that would eventually lead to Enoch, King David, and Christ himself. In this theory, we have hunter-gatherer tribes of humans already on the earth when Adam and Eve are ejected from the Garden of Eden. This is the human stock from which Adam and Eve's children obviously took wives. The serpent in the garden, which was cursed to crawl on its belly, was actually an anthropoid reptilian, much like the seraphim, which is a high-ranking class of celestial being, which we miscall angels. Angel is a functional title. Elohim is a singular and plural word for celestial being. God in the Bible, Yahweh, is the Elohim above all Elohim. We are told eventually in the Bible that there was a partial rebellion of celestial beings, approximately a third of their number, along with their leader, called Hillel, or Lucifer in English. In Genesis, we are told later, when the number of humans has multiplied, that a rogue group of watcher-class celestial beings came down on a place called Mount Hermon. This is where they took the wives and began mating with them, creating Elohim human hybrids called Nephilim. And by the way, Mount Hermon is in the news right now. Israel is, I believe, fighting over it with possibly the remnants of the Syrian forces and the Iranian forces. Also, Mount Hermon was very important to many other Mesopotamian religions. And I believe also the Greeks thought that the underworld, the entrance to Tartarus, the underworld, was on Mount Hermon. So almost everyone in the region considered that mountain to be important.
Yeah.
Let's see, where was I? Enoch expands upon this information, telling us that an Elohim named Azazel, sometimes called Samael, and you might notice that if you've ever seen the seal of Satanists, they have a strange symbol, and it says Samael and Lilith, and that's who they're talking about. He's also known as Azazel.
Yes.
That was their leader and captain over 20 tens, or about 200 total watchers. These fallen ones then taught mankind forbidden knowledge such as warfare, metalworking, witchcraft, magic, pregnancy terminations, herbal mixes or drugs, and astrology. I think it's important to note here how we would describe one of these high-ranking Elohim. A modern description of an angel could be a hyperdimensional superintelligence that is pre-equipped with all the knowledge of creation and the physical laws that govern it, able to take any physical form in this dimension and having incredible supernatural powers bestowed upon him. Elohim or angels could take any image or form they wished in our material dimension. That's described in the Bible.
Yeah.
Let's see, where was I lost my place for a second.
No, it's okay.
I believe the Watchers are able to instantly hypnotize humans and communicate in telepathy, much like a zookeeper is given many technological powers over the animals he cares for, powers that appear to be magic from the animal's perspective. These kinds of powers are suspiciously similar to the ones that so-called aliens display. For that matter, why would an alien purportedly evolved in another star system star system look like a reptile. Are these reptilians, in fact, fallen seraphim? The question is intriguing. And Gary Wayne, taking information from other scriptures, proposes that the seraphim class of angel had one form that had a snake or reptile head, and
Right.
that being the same type of serpent that was present in the garden. Interestingly enough, some of the oldest religious figurines found on nearly every continent are humanoid figures that feature snake-like heads. These figures are found in Asia, Africa, South America, and Mesopotamia. The fallen seraphim setting themselves up as gods to Stone Age humans may have archaeological merit. Some archaeologists also point out that in some Stone Age cultures, a sudden introduction of human-on-human violence seems to suddenly occur at the same place and time. Could this be where the Watchers introduced weapons to mankind? Another interesting point is that Dr. Carla Turner's in her research, one of her subjects, Angie, was told by blonde humanoids that they were in charge of the Greys and the numerous other alien beings she and others were encountering. This same authority structure has been noted by other abductees as well. Could these blonde humanoids be the angelic human form that we see described interacting with people in the Bible? Could the ritual abuse that Ted Rice experienced be the fallen ones getting even with the Creator? Remember what he said? They were getting even with somebody?
Yep.
Who threw them out of the heavenly realm? Are these reptilian and blonde humanoids that so many people have encountered celestial beings, fallen celestial beings? Gary Wayne goes on to describe how that in the days of Noah, the fallen angels, having set themselves up as regional gods over mankind, also set their long-lived sons and daughters, the giant Nephilim, up as kings and queens over 10 regions of the earth, including Atlantis. Drawing from resources of knowledge preserved in secret societies, biblical and apocryphal sources, other religious texts, and mythologies from different cultures in ancient times, he points out the similarities of mythological memories, noting that Mesopotamians, Greeks, and even Mayans all had flood legends and myths of long-lived giants that were descended from the gods. He believes the mentions of high technology and incredible wars between these earthbound gods are shown in the Bhagavad Gita. Have you ever heard of that? Those Indian scriptures? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah,
I didn't know that was the name.
The ancient Vedic scriptures were also, Oppenheimer talked about those. He had been reading those when he was designing the atomic bomb. And I think when they asked him something about the atomic bomb, and he said something like, "This is the first time we'll use it in the modern era," because he believed that these wars between the gods were actual history, preserved in those mythologies.
I was actually watching a TV program last night about some of this. So,
were you?
Yeah.
Cool.
It was on Sky Max or something. I can't remember what it was, but there's a lot of just all like UFOs, paranormal, but each episode was different. I just left it on. I was watching it, and they was talking about the inscriptions.
Yeah.
And it's like the chances of that, and then you talking about it. It's a TV channel I've not watched for about 6 months.
Yeah.
So I was like, that's pretty cool, that.
Yeah, I love it when we have synchronicities in our lives like that. To me, that's a note that God's at work somewhere. Let's see, where was I? Okay, he notes that over 500 separate cultures spread across the globe have a flood myth with a few people that survived in boats to repopulate the earth. I think that's amazing. I found out by reading Gary Wayne's book that even the Apache of North America, the Indian tribe of North America, had a flood myth with people that survived in a boat. The Mayans did too. They had myths of giants who were destroyed because of their evil. Just amazing.
Yeah.
Apparently, mankind has a dim memory from an age when the gods and their children ruled the earth, but were destroyed for their great evil. Gary believes that the Creator and his holy celestial beings actually had to reset the entire earth, because if he had not, the seed of the fallen serpents would have choked out the seed of mankind, and the fallen ones would have taken mankind's inheritance of the earth away from him. More evidence for this is when we are told Noah was perfect in his generations, strongly implying that his preservation had something to do with his perfectly human genetic line. It also makes other parts of the Old Testament make far more sense. The Israelites were supposed to destroy the Nephilim tribes of Canaan because they had fallen angel serpent genetics. The messianic bloodline of Jesus could not be polluted with that of the fallen angel serpents. I think that's so interesting because we don't have the knowledge of Enoch in mainstream Christianity, but we're told about when the and I don't know if everyone in the audience has heard this, but in the Bible, it tells that the origin of the Israelites was from a man named Abraham, and his descendant Joseph lived in Egypt for a long time, and they built up a number. The Egyptians ended up enslaving them. They left that land, wandered across Sinai, and then for some reason, God told them to take the land from these Canaanites, but not just to take the land, but to destroy them utterly.
Oh.
What is left over in the Bible is that the spies that went into the Canaanite land said, the people there are giants and we are like grasshoppers before them. Wow. And I was watching, as an aside, I was watching a YouTube archaeology channel the other day, and the guy showed pictures from a museum in Israel where they had these giant spearheads, and I want to say they're about that big. They're about the same size as a shovel. Okay.
Wow. Yeah.
Normal spearheads, a
couple of inches
one is that big.
Yeah.
So when archaeologists found that spearhead, it was found with a cache of other weapons beside it that were also large, extremely large, and they notated it as ornamental weapons, but when you looked closely to them, those same giant weapons had battle damage on them.
So they've been used, obviously.
They've been used, exactly. Yeah. Let's see.
It is very interesting because it's like, this is why I believe that a lot of the history has been wiped.
Oh, yes.
So there's no other reason for it. It's got to be for that reason, if nothing else.
I agree. And, investigating many different avenues, what I've run into, and maybe this sounds a bit too conspiratorial for people, but what I've run into on multiple different research avenues, whether it be UFOs or whether it be COVID or whether it be corruption in the elite caste.
Yeah.
You always seem, if you go far enough, to run into some sort of a global shadow government.
Yes. Yep.
And I'm almost at the end here. Gary Wang then goes on to show how the secret societies preserved the antediluvian knowledge of the fallen ones and have maneuvered themselves to preserve their ancient bloodlines and their power to this very day. And he really does. In that book, he really does go through all the different secret societies, and he tells all the hidden knowledge they have and how it interrelates and where they believe it was found, and how it goes back to that antediluvian time when the fallen Elohim gods ruled the earth. Let's see. Gary speculates that the biblical prophecies of the end times will include the fallen angels returning once more with the same high technology they used before in order to deceive us into allowing them to rule us once again, because we have amnesia and no longer remember their rule in an era long ago. He believes that this generation will see the conclusion of the war between the fallen Elohim and their creator. I too believe this alien visitation, hybridization program, and explosion we have seen, or we have been experiencing encrypted sightings, will culminate in a major event. I believe the fallen Elohim are returning to regale us with their weaponized confusion and high technology. And if we allow them to, they may try to take our sovereignty from us once more, just as they did once before. And so that's it. That's my paper.
No, a lot of it, I didn't understand, because I've not heard it before, so it's hard to get your head around a lot of the stuff. So, but yeah, I got the majority of it, but it is hard to take it all in.
It really is.
Yeah.
I really, when I put all this together, I thought about doing like a smaller one, because this is really, I guess this outline here, this is me pretty much tying together a lifetime of research.
Yes. Yeah. And so, for you to get that in like just over an hour, that's pretty good. That's good going. Yeah. I'd still be writing it. Won't even be close. But just going back to what you were saying before about these that we're seeing like the 1800s, and there's using water to power the crafts. So a couple of people are putting it in the chat, and it did make me think as you was going through it about so Wayne Fire Spirit has put they became mermaids.
Yes.
Mermans.
Yes.
But then if these crafts are going into the water, maybe they're not just hiding in the water, but maybe they're going into the water to refuel. Hydrogen, innit? Hydrogen powered. I'm not saying it is that, but that could be a possibility. Or it could be something more technical than that.
It's definitely a possibility.
More high powered.
And I absolutely believe they have undersea bases here. The U.S. Navy gives a lot of attention to UFOs, and they with their sonar mapping technology. If a U.S. Navy sonar went across your face and they printed it out, I mean, they would plot every hair on your head.
Oh yeah,
that's how fine their sonar is. And you can be sure that the U.S. Navy has mapped the entire ocean floor with their subs. Yeah, and they know everything that's down there. And I think they've run into these bases before, and I think they know to stay away from them. Yeah,
I think they've probably been told not to go too close.
Yeah. So. Yeah, and over the years, and by the way, when we wrap up or whenever, I definitely would like to tell you guys all the books I read for this presentation.
Yeah.
Well, I'm hoping any of you are interested in them.
Yeah, but I'm hoping you're going to come back on in the new year anyway.
Oh, absolutely.
And go deeper into this.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, anytime, man.
Yeah.
And maybe next time I can figure out how to operate a camera or a microphone, rather.
Yeah, get some alien tech advice.
Yeah.
But no, it's just because as you was talking, I'm writing a few bits down. I don't normally write a lot of stuff down, but it's just the thing with the water, and then people was putting it in the chat. If these vehicles are going into the water, it's like I guess like in water bases or underwater bases and all that kind of stuff. But what if they are using the power of water, or they're taking something out of the water to power these crafts?
Yeah, they could be.
That'd make more sense. That'd make a lot more sense than
Yeah.
anything else. I'm not saying it is that, it's just a theory, like anything. But it just seems too, I suppose, over obvious.
Yeah.
Do you know what I
And
mean?
if these creatures are what I think they are, they can do almost anything.
Yeah.
And I definitely think, by the way, and this will seem like a tangent, but I hope it'll tie back in. Over here in America, there were many, many, many stories in the late 1800s, well, all throughout the 1800s, really, of there being giant bones in the Indian mounds.
Yes.
And not just the Indian mounds. Sometimes they would come out of other types of graves. But the Smithsonian had a very racist outlook, I would say, of how they wanted basically how they wanted to write history. In their view, there was really one guy who controlled the Smithsonian. I'm sorry, I forget his name, but he wanted he had a theory that all civilization came out of Mesopotamia, and that people mostly stayed in their own people groups until the Portuguese, Spanish, and British sailed around and brought civilization to everyone. But a lot of out of place artifacts and suppressed archaeology indicates that this is not the case.
Right.
I don't know if you've ever heard about the Welsh legends in America. There's some very strong Welsh legends in America.
Yeah. Me and Darren have actually been talking
I've
about
talked to Darren about it.
Wales and its connection to pretty much everything in past history.
Yeah.
And religious and tech and just the general knowledge of everything that's pretty much going on, even as we speak.
Yeah.
And how it all goes back to Wales. Well,
yeah.
I say Wales, it's like it was known as Britain. So, and people of Britain were Welsh, basically.
Yes.
Cut a long story short.
Yes.
So, yeah. And then you just need to go down that rabbit hole and look for yourselves because it is absolutely mind blowing. It's only I'd say the last 6 months that me and Darren has been talking about this. And it's just the amount of rabbit holes it's opened. It's like it wasn't even something I'd begin to consider until that seed was put in there, and it just opens up a whole new world.
Yeah, absolutely. And
so different.
I won't go too far into this and say the wrong names or anything like that, but when the royal bloodlines came in to Britain from elsewhere, their bloodlines, they claim, go all the way back to the Scythians, and the Scythians were an extremely violent culture of people.
Yeah,
and you look in some of the crests of these families, and they have a dragon on there, but the dragon was always, in the Middle Ages and the early modern period, all the way up to really the 1800s. There was a very the West was very Christian, but if you had why would you have a dragon on your crest? The dragon was always associated with Satan.
Yeah.
So Gary Wayne goes on to talk about those deep connections and what bloodlines these people are really preserving, going back all the way to the fallen angels. Yeah. And just like you were talking about when they came into Britain, pushing out the Welsh or real British people, that nobility, wiping them out.
But it's like as well, there's a lot of, I was chatting to a guy called Mark Holly, was on a few weeks ago, and there's a lot of places in Wales that if you slightly mispronounce a place in the Far East, you are guaranteed there's a place in Wales with that name.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's like, is this a missing link?
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of it is, it's just the way the word or the nameplate has been spelt. It's been changed slightly to hide where it actually is. So I don't want to go too deep into it because I don't want to get booted off YouTube just yet. Because I know the stories of the two people that were looking into it and the stuff that happened to them.
Yes.
And
Darren told me about that. I did look into that.
yeah, I'm not chancing that. So I'm going to keep it as, what's the word? As
Yeah.
distant as possible. So you got to fill your own gaps in, but just look into the true history of Wales.
Look into it. Yeah. Talking about America again, Meriwether Clark was killed by a lone gunman as soon as he came back from the famous Lewis and Clark expedition. And the Lewis and Clark expedition, for you guys that live in the UK, that was really the expedition that brought us knowledge of the middle of the country and the western part of the country, because the original British colonists didn't know anything about the rest of it. But so Meriwether Clark and Lewis, they encountered a tribe of Indians where some of the Indians had blonde hair and blue eyes, and they seemed to speak a Welsh dialect.
Yep.
And so when Meriwether Clark was murdered by the lone gunman, the only thing that was stolen from him were a few pages out of his exploration diary. Yep.
Well, yep. Yeah, it's worth, I think, if anyone's interested, to go down that rabbit hole themselves and see what you can find, because it's not just like you go down one rabbit hole and there's a couple of little branches here and there. You go down, you will be down there for the rest of your life.
That's right. There's a whole rabbit warren down that one hole.
It just goes on forever and ever, and you can go as far and as deep as you want, or you can cut it off at any time that you want. But everything just literally comes back to the Welsh.
It does.
Whether it's a language, where it's from, who is there, who came from there, words that are, it's like the word Tudor. I didn't know this till a few weeks ago, that Tudor's Welsh, as in Tudor, originally spelled TWR, which is Welsh.
Yeah, I think
that was to do with Henry VIII.
Yeah, I think I did read that they were a noble bloodline out of the Welsh. I think I read that the other day. But yeah, I really noticed that when you start investigating the paranormal real hard and you just keep going very deep, you'll start running into the same kind of things over and over again. Like you'll run into what seems to be, I don't know if it's a global shadow government, but it at least runs, the European American alliance,
Yeah. But just before we come to the end of the show, I just want to say quickly that, to put the last thing out about the Wales without saying it without saying it, there is a particular person that has been named several times during this conversation, who is very, very famously and well known throughout the world. His final resting place is not where you think it is. But it's, that's all I'm going to say.
Right on.
And there are markers there to tell you exactly where it is and who it is. So, yeah, that's all I'm saying on that. I want to say it, but I know I can't.
Well, I think we did pretty good on staying away from the words we can't say on YouTube.
Yeah, I think I'm getting used to it. I think after 3 years of kind of like, I've got that mental note in my head of what I can and can't say in phrases as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but I just want to say a massive thank you, Ian, for coming on. I know it was a bit of a ball ache at the beginning with the tech and the microphone, and
that was all on my end, man. I'm so sorry that I delayed the show, but I really enjoyed it.
It happens. It's just one of them. It happens to me. It happened to you. It happened to the next guest. You know what I mean? It happens to the co-host Nicole when she's on. Her computer will just shut down. Mine, I'm surprised mine hasn't turned itself off tonight. It tends to do it. But I'll definitely come back on in the new year. We'll find a gap for you. And I've got a few gaps in January and February. So we can carry on from where we left off if you want.
Yeah, excellent. I'd love to.
Yeah, perfect. So thank you, Darren, for sorting this out. Really do appreciate it.
Yeah, shut up, Darren.
Thank you, Ian, for getting all that knowledge and condensing it down into what you did. How you've done that, I will never know. That on its own is amazing. So do appreciate it. Thank you, everyone in the chat. Thank you, everyone who's going to be listening on Podcast Player. Really do appreciate that too. Join us on Wednesday, where I'm going to be. Nicole's going to be back because obviously she shouldn't do Mondays. It's going to be Daniel Lee Barnett, who's going to be coming on talking about the UK Bigfoot. But he sorts out the cryptid conference down in Bridgewater. He did it last year and he's doing it this year as well. And then on Friday, we are going to be joined by the Australian comic and paranormal person called Nick Trapini. So that's it from us. Anything you want to add, Ian, before we finish here tonight?
Would you guys like to see my book sources? Is anybody interested in that?
Yeah. Okay. Still got a couple of minutes. I just wanted to wrap everything up. That was all.
All right. So these are in no particular order. Definitely read if you're interested in the UFO abduction phenomenon. Read Dr. Carla Turner's books.
Yeah.
This one's called Masquerade of Angels. This next one is by Joe Jordan and Jason December. Joe Jordan was a MUFON researcher, I believe. It's called Piercing the Cosmic Veil.
Yeah.
Okay. This next one, if you're interested in the spiritual angle, particularly the Christian and Western esoteric connection, the Bible, Physics, and the Abilities of Fallen Angels by Paradox Brown.
Cool.
This next one is a great one, great author, Nick Redfern.
Yes.
Final Events. Another one by Dr. Carla Turner, Taken.
Yep.
Okay, and then I got one more, and then we'll be done.
Yeah, that's cool.
This is my favorite one. This goes into the antediluvian pre-flood knowledge and secret societies and how they intersect into our world today. The Genesis 6 Conspiracy by Gary Wayne. This is actually 2 books. This is the first one.
Right. Okay.
It's a tough read.
Quite fit.
Yeah.
A lot of words and pages.
So, well, it was great meeting you, Andy. I really enjoyed this. I appreciate everyone who listened to my interview, and thank you very much.
No, thank you for coming on. Like I said, I'll be in touch to sort out coming on the new year.
Okay.
Hopefully get you on a Friday.
No problem.
It's more solid as to what we talk about. So, but if you want to stay on till we go off air, I've just got to play the outro.
Sure.
And then we can have a quick chat after that. So Thank you, everyone in the chat. Thank you, Og and Nickname, for doing the modding. Thank you to everyone who's downloading on Podcast Player. And I will see you back in 2 days when I'll be talking to Daniel. So take care, everyone, and goodbye. Cheers.
Goodbye.